here we are on the front of our Bounder by Fleetwood. We're going to go over a tutorial on our units. We're going to go through, show you how things operate, where things are located, give you a few tips and tricks along the way. If you want a deeper dive on some of these components or more, you can find that on our Great American RV YouTube channel under the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. Deeper dive, a little bit of diagnostics, a little bit of maintenance on some of those products. If you want overall general knowledge, we have a bunch of videos on that Great American RV YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, follow. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comments section. We're here to help you after the sale. So we're going to go ahead and move forward here. We're going to start here in the front under the hood. And first thing under the hood we're going to talk about is our 12-volt battery. That is for our chassis side. This isn't going to control anything on the house side. We'll show you where those batteries are later. This is just for the engine. So this is a wet cell battery that is intended to be maintained. So you would remove these caps. You want to make sure water level is above those plates. If you do refill it, you want to make sure you use distilled water. Make sure maintain those batteries properly, because these things sit up, they can go bad. We'll also notice in our 12-volt stuff, we do have some 12-volt fuses in line right there for our chassis stuff. We have our coolant right there. We have our transmission and oil dipsticks right there to be able to check the oil, our air filter, our brake fluid, our windshield washer fluid, all the normal things that you would see under the hood of the vehicle, you would see right here. This is a Ford chassis. It needs to be maintained just like your car is. Oil changes, air cleaner change, you know, all that fun stuff, it needs to be maintained. If you're looking to get it done by a Ford dealership, you can do that, but you want to reach out and make sure that they do take motorhomes before you just roll up over there, because some do, some don't. So make sure we're maintaining our chassis so we stay within our warranty. All right, so moving on to our driver's side, we'll notice on our driver's side mirror, we have a camera right here that kicks on when our blinker is activated. We're gonna have the same thing on the passenger side. We'll show you where that monitor and how everything functions when we get to the inside. Notice right before our slide, we have this little compartment door that flips down, a little cap. We pull that cap off. That is going to lead to our fresh tank, which is our onboard storage for water. If we go camping somewhere that doesn't have water, or want to have water while we're on the road, we can go ahead and access that through our fresh tank. And to fill it, this is called our gravity fill. Take that cap off, stick your water hose in there, and start filling it. We can monitor the level of it on the inside. There is an overflow on that, so if you overflow it, it's just going to go down on the ground. No big deal. That lets you definitely know that it is full. In our first compartment, not much to see, mainly storage. We will see our power gear motor right there for our slide out. So this is an electric slide. It's a below floor mount slide operated by our power gear motors. Our next compartment is more storage, and we'll actually be able to put our eyes right here on our actual fresh tank. So our fresh tank does need to be drained out from time to time. You can do that with that valve right there. You don't want to leave water standing inside that tank for an extended period of time. That water is going to get stagnant and nasty in there. Go ahead and open that valve, let it air out. You might want to close it off so no insects build any nests inside there when you store it. That's pretty much it. Take with you what you need. It does add weight to your unit, so just keep that in mind whenever you fill it up. Our next compartment, just more storage. We do have some pass-through bay through there so we can see. We also have our vents right there for our heat to be able to keep those compartments warm during the winter time. And once again, next compartment, more pass-through and more storage right here. We're going to see our second motor for our slide out tucked right up under there. We do have override instructions in the event something happens with this slide out, it gets stuck, on how to override those motors and get that slide in our helpful hacks section, of course. Next compartment is just going to be more storage. We have sewer hose that comes with it, and now we're getting into some nitty gritty here, okay? So this is our third to last compartment. We're going to have all of our water hookup stuff. So let's go over this. Hot, cold, and our shower faucet, okay? That's pretty self-explanatory. To the right of that, we have our water pump. Kick that on. That is going to pull water from our fresh tank and supply it to our water fixtures if we don't have a city water connection. So that water tank that we filled up earlier, we kick that water pump on, and that will supply water to our fixtures, like I said. In the event we are at a campground and they have a water hose, or we're at our house, whatever the case may be, take that water hose, we're going to hook it up to our water inlet right here. So then we turn to city fixtures right here. That's going to go ahead and supply that water to all of our city fixtures on the inside, and that water will be coming from that hose bill. So one thing I forgot to mention when we do use that water pump is we need to turn to dry camping right there, and that will bring that water from that tank to the fixtures. So when we're at the campground, we got a hose, city fixtures, we're using a water pump, drive camping. We go to tank fill right here. If we have a hose hooked up here and we want to fill our tank up, go to tank fill and that tank will begin filling up. So we have two options to be able to fill that tank. Down here below that one is winterize, sanitize fixtures, whatever you want to do there. It is either winterizing your unit, preparing it for cold weather, or we're putting a mixture of water and bleach in our lines to sanitize everything. Either way, you're filling your system via water pump up there into all of your fixtures and stuff, and we're going to do that with a hose right here that goes into a tank full of water and bleach to sanitize, or RV antifreeze to winterize, depending on which method you are doing. There's more information for winterization in your owner's manual, as well as more videos on our YouTube channel. I'm not going to take a deep dive into that today. Down here we have low point drains for your hot and cold. Both of those have to do with our winterization, and that drains the water out of our system. Here we have 110 receptacle. We have a 12-volt receptacle along with our cable input right there. So that is going to lead to the inside. We have cable at the campground. We hook it up here, and that provides cable to our TVs on the inside. Black tank flush right here. This is going to lead to a jet port on the other side of our black tank to help flush that system out, get any sewage and stuff that is left in that tank and help flush it out. So while we're speaking about that, we might as well go over how we dump our system. So we got two valves right here. One is gray, one is black. If you can't really tell the color, you can tell by the pipe. So your smaller pipe is going to be your gray tank. Your bigger pipe leading into this valve is going to be your black tank. Our gray tank is shower and sink water mainly, okay? So not a whole lot of debris, definitely not any sewage or anything like that. It's just mainly soapy water. So that valve, as long as we're hooked up there at the campground, you bring your water hose, hook it up right here, we're hooked up to a dump port at the campground, we can leave that water open all the time and just let that drain out so we don't have to keep coming out here. That tank may fill up kind of fast with showers. Just let it drain out, no big deal. Our black tank, however, we want to make sure that we keep that valve closed until we are actually ready to dump and flush that system. Reason being is we have solids in there. We have sewage, we have toilet paper, stuff like that in there from our toilet, and all that stuff can get stuck in our tank. So if we drain the water out of here, that stuff definitely gets stuck in there. It dries up, sticks to our tank, can't get it cleaned out. It's a big mess. So what we want to do is make sure this valve is closed till we're ready to dump, so we leave liquids in there. We also want to make sure we have several gallons of water in there from the start. So the process goes, we're ready to dump, we have our hose hooked up, we pull that black tank valve, let it start draining. When we are ready, we go ahead and hook a water hose up to our black tank flush right here. That's going to start spitting water out of that jet port on the other side, helping flush that tank system out. If you get a clear adapter on here, you can go ahead and see the gunk and everything kind of flow through there and know when you're getting good clean water out of your system. Whenever you are done, disconnect that black tank flush, come over here, let everything drain out, close your valve, then go on the toilet on the inside, hold down that pedal and add several gallons of fresh clean water to your tank, because like I said, you want that in there. There's still going to be a little bit of debris and stuff in there. You don't want that to dry out. So you want to make sure you have several gallons of fresh clean water in there. Plus, while you're driving down the road, that stuff will slosh around, kind of help clean that tank up a little bit. Then you want to add your chemicals in there too. We do have some other tips about flushing your black tank. You can find that, of course, in the Helpful Hacks section of our YouTube channel. Above that, we have a water filter right here. This water filter can be changed out. All of your water is going to filter through that into your unit. And when we do want to change this out, just keep in mind you want to depressurize your system. So turn your faucets on, make sure your water is disconnected, water pumps off, faucets are drained out, then open this up. Otherwise, it's going to be pressurized and you're going to make a big mess. So keep that in mind. Next is our water pump under here. That is that 12-volt water pump. That's activated by that switch there. You will hear it vibrate. Okay, it's not uncommon to hear this vibrate when it runs. We'll kick it on real quick and hear that little sucker pumping away. and it's on demand. So if we have our water turned on, you're going to hear it kick on. It's going to go ahead and supply water. When you shut that faucet off, it should shut off within a few seconds after that. If it doesn't, we want to check, because either our fresh tank is empty or we have a leak somewhere in our system. Both can end up burning up that pump if we don't shut it off. We're also going to have a little strainer on here, that filter. We need to clean that out every now and again as well. Moving on down the line, we have our generator right here. We have our Onan QG 5500 on this particular system. This is a gas generator. It pulls from the gas tank on your unit, but don't worry, it's only going to pull down to a quarter tank, so that way if it runs out of fuel, it's not going to leave your chassis empty. So just keep that in mind and run it to that point. If your generator won't crank at a quarter tank, it's too low. So here on our generator, we have our start stop button right here. You want to hold down the stop button and the fuel pump is going to kick on. It's going to start priming that system. That red light comes on. Hold that down for about 20 seconds or so, and then we can go ahead and start our generator. Within a few seconds, the generator is going to start outputting power out to your unit, and you should have power on the inside. Beyond that, we have our 30 amp breakers right here. So if we're running our generator, we're on the inside, we have power, everything's fine and dandy, and then all of a sudden we lose 110 power, we need to come and we check our breakers on the inside, and everything is okay. We need to come out and check these two breakers right here. They might be tripped. Before you reset them, shut off AC, microwave, whatever else you might have had on, then reset these so there's not a surge in voltage. And we need to make sure we're not overamping our system, causing that stuff to trip. Besides that, air filter, carburetor, oil drain tube, oil dipstick, all the common things you're going to find in an engine. And guess what? That does require maintenance. So follow your manual, make sure you're maintaining this stuff. You can start it from out here, but if you do, you want to make sure that we put that cover back on there so the air will circulate properly, because if not, this system will overheat and that will cause that engine to shut down. Moving on, we have our 50 amp power cord right here, a little electric reel to roll it in, flip that switch, roll that cord in, have our port down there at the bottom to run it out, plug it into our campsite. I suggest you make sure that your AC system and stuff is off before we plug in or unplug that, so we don't cause any surges once again. Here we have that transfer switch. Transfer switch is going to decide where our 110 power comes from. Have our shore power or we have our generator. Depending on which one is active, this is going to click over and pull that energy into our camper and use that as our service. Now, if you kick your generator on, it is going to override your shore power and activate. That way, when you unplug your shore power, you have power running and you're prepped and ready to go down the road. So on our back cap, see our backup camera up there up top, see behind us while we're traveling down the road. And when we're backing up over here, we're going to see our fuel dock right there to fill up with fuel, 7-way plug, receiver hitch, tow a trailer, car, whatever you want behind you. And then most importantly, back here, we have our ladder. Don't worry, it comes with an extension that's right there. We go ahead and latch on so we can gain access to our roof. Gaining access to that roof is super important. That ladder is probably one of the most important components on your unit, because that means you can easily gain access to your roof. We need to do that because we need to check the sealant on that roof every 60 to 90 days. Also need to wash that roof about twice a year. Make sure we're getting everything off of it, checking those seals and everything up there, because if we don't, it's going to allow water into our unit. We're looking for cracking, peeling, deterioration, even tree damage in some cases, depending on where you've been driving around, and we need to take care of that stuff promptly. If we don't, it's going to allow water into our unit. Manufacturers aren't going to participate in any water damage if we're not maintaining our unit. Beyond the roof, we need to check all our sealants around our trim, our windows, all that stuff. Anywhere where you see sealant, we need to check that every 60 to 90 days. I don't care if you keep it in a storage barn, I don't care if you keep it outside, I don't care if you put a cover over it. The sun eats this stuff up, weather eats it up, expand, contract, all that stuff. You're going to end up with damage to that sealant at some point. Make sure we're checking it every 60 to 90 days. Number one, most neglected thing that customers do is not maintain their sealant on their unit. So please make sure we're doing that. All right, so moving on. I got off my soapbox. We have our back compartment right here. More storage with that ladder extension. Second to last compartment, more storage, pass through, once again, those ventilated ducts for the heater to keep the compartments warm. And this, we have our LCI hydraulic system right here. So this is for our pump. That pump is going to operate our leveling jacks on our unit. We are going to have some override videos on this. I don't think they're out yet, but they will be coming. If you have any questions on how to override our jack system, just look for them in the Haps Helpful Hacks section. 12-volt powered pump, and it is going to activate off of our touch panel on the inside. We'll show you in a little bit. Here we have our LP tank. Our LP tank has our meter right there to tell you if it's empty or full. We have our valve to turn it off and on, and our regulator is stored under that plastic cap right there. These two devices right here are used for filling, so we're not going to worry about that right now. Move on. In front of our axle, we have our Suburban water heater right here. This is an on-demand water heater, 12-volt operated, uses propane in order to heat that water for you. So on demand, it's going to give you an extended amount of water. We don't have to worry about a tank in this system. We do have an on-off switch out here, so just kind of want to show you that, plus 12-volt fuse. In the event it's not working, those are two things that we can come check on our system to ensure that they are on and the fuse isn't blown. In this compartment right here, more pass-through storage right here, more pass-through storage right there, and we have our 12-volt electronic stuff up in here. All right, so this compartment, this is right behind our entry door. This is going to kind of be where some of the brains of our operations is going on right here. So this is behind here. We're going to have disconnects. We're going to have 12-volt stuff in here. We're going to pop this off. We'll just go ahead and show you. All right, kind of scary, kind of not. Okay, we have some 12-volt fuses in here. They tell you what they all are. We have radio, LP detector, auxiliary start, solar panels, all kind of stuff. So this can differ from unit to unit depending on the floor plan, but just know there's 12-volt fuses here, there's 12-volt fuses here. So if we have any issues with some of these items, might want to come check here and see if anything is blown. Test light is a great thing to have in your toolbox to come check these fuses and make sure nothing is blown. Beyond that, you will have a little wiring diagram on here that goes through and tells you what all those fuses are and what they operate. We do have our little code lights right here that give you the current status of some of your items. So we have a chassis battery disconnect, a coach battery disconnect, a coach chassis battery disconnect, and then we have our coach battery. All right, whew, a lot of stuff. All right, so what is a disconnect? The disconnect is this. It's a switch. It disconnects your batteries from the rest of your system so they don't go dead. Now, some of your stuff, including like your safety system, stuff like that, are hardwired in there, so you will still have a drain on your battery. When do we turn these disconnects off? When we are storing our unit unplugged. When do we leave them on? Any other time. If you are using your unit, you have it plugged in, you are traveling down the road and using your unit, whatever the case may be, you want to go ahead and leave these on. Only time you turn them off, you're storing your unit unplugged and you're not using it, okay? So this one is for our inverter. Our inverter changes 12-volt power to 110 power, so we could use that while we're traveling down the road rather than run our generator. If we're trying to run some small appliances like our refrigerator, we would go ahead and rely on that inverter. Or if we're dry camping, this isn't going to run your AC, but it's going to run your fridge, some of your outlets, TVs, so on and so forth. Over here we have our slide out disconnect, another switch for our slide out. So if our slide outs aren't working, we want to make sure that is on. We'll have another switch on the inside that covers our chassis and coach disconnects, at which point these lights right here would turn off whenever we activate those. So we have 1, 2, and 3, 4, the two switches on the inside. 4 disconnects we need to turn off on our unit whenever we go to store it. So moving on, we have a couple things in here, our power gear boards for our slide outs, our leveling sensors, stuff like that. Bunch of little electronics in here that help your system run. We're also going to have our solar controller right there by Future Solutions. We have that little panel right here. Not going to take a deep dive into that stuff. It's solar. If you're using it, you're using it. It's going to monitor it. It's going to tell you what that charging voltage is. As long as we have sunlight, it's charging, okay? If you want more information on that, they do have an owner's manual. You can go into it and monitor some of that stuff. We have our outside TV right here, sound bar. We also have our Dometic furnace right here. That is going to be 12-volt powered and use gas to heat the air. Pretty much wraps up everything out here except for our awning and our steps. We'll cover that next. So before we go to our awning and our entry door, we'll notice right here, this is actually a decorative cap right here. So these lug nuts are not real. These are these ones with the indentions on there. We have a tool, you can go ahead and turn and twist those off and get this decorative cap off of here to gain access to the real lug nuts on that aluminum rim right there. Most of your tire companies know about that, so just letting you know in the event you want to become a tire man on the side of the road, which I doubt, okay? Moving on, we have our 12-volt powered awning right here. Our button panel on the inside, we'll show you in a little while. Push it once, awning comes out, push it again, push the in, and it will go ahead and roll in on its own. 12-volt powered lights right here, and of course porch light, all the stuff 12-volt powered. You're gonna find the fuses for that in that panel in there that we talked about earlier. Main things about our awning is it's not a rain shade, it is a sunshade. It is also a parachute in a windstorm. So that being said, we wanna make sure we roll our awning in if we have a rainstorm coming in, high windstorm. If we're leaving our camper for an extended period of time, another good idea to go ahead and roll it in so we don't come back to a catastrophe. That will be an insurance claim. If we don't go ahead and bring our awning in those events, it's going to be insurance all day long. Unfortunately, that turns into customer pay, deductibles, time. You don't want to do that. So when in doubt, roll it in, salvage your awning. When weather is nice, go ahead and roll it out. We are going to get a little dew on there. A little light rain is okay. We're going to probably have some condensation from our AC get on there. Main thing I want to do is keep that water from puddling up in the middle of that awning and collapsing. So what we do is we come up here, we squeeze these two tabs together right here, grab our arm, pull it down. Of course, we'll have a little step ladder or something. You don't want to use your steps, not endorsing that. Pull that arm down a couple holes. That allows this awning to tilt and allows that water to run off. And when we're ready, go ahead and kick it back up and then we can roll our awning in. So that's all covered on the awning. Don't leave it out in a rainstorm. Don't leave it out in the wind. We have our powered steps right here for our entry door right now. And these are 12-volt powered steps. Gonna operate when we open and close this door if we have our switch on. So we have the option to turn that switch off and on. If we turn those steps on, those steps will come in and out when we open and close this door. Works off of a little magnet right here. You have another one right here with wires coming off of it. If your steps aren't working, make sure that switch is on. Make sure those magnets are mounted properly. Those things can break off. Kids play with stuff, so on and so forth. If you want your steps to stay out whenever you are camping, and rather than go in and out when you open and close that door, turn that switch off. If you forget to turn those steps back on, that's okay. As soon as you kick on that ignition from your driver's seat to leave, those steps will go ahead and automatically roll in based off of that ignition control. Let's step inside and see what we got in there. All right, so as we walk up our steps, we flip these two latches, pushing the button. We have our 12-volt batteries right here. More wet cell batteries, so we see these caps are a little different. We twist these off, we can check our water level in there. If we need to add water, distilled water, once again, want it above our plates. Now you'll notice a little wire right here that's connected to our remote on our Magnum Energy system. It monitors the battery levels and everything in here. So the Magnum Energy system is our inverter that changes 12 volts to 110 power. These are those 12-volt batteries that it is pulling off of. So these are our house batteries. Controls all of our 12-volt stuff inside our unit. So these are the ones we want to make sure we're in good shape on whenever we're out using our camper. It's important that we plug our unit in whenever we can or run our generator to keep these things juiced up and charged up and in good shape. Make sure we're maintaining the water levels in there. Otherwise, those batteries are going to go bad eventually, and they are an expensive replacement. So battery maintenance, customer maintenance, make sure we're staying on top of that stuff. Over to the left, we have our switches for our front ceiling, rear ceiling, driver ceiling, galley ceiling, cargo lights, porch lights, entry step. Entry step, that's the one we talked about outside for the steps in and out. All these are all our lights. We can go ahead and turn them all off just like that with that all light button. We can turn it back on with all the all light button. We can go ahead and choose which ones we want to turn off and on right here. If we go ahead and hold that button down, it will dim those lights. Take off, put it back on, and it will brighten them back up. So a few little features that are on there, kind of cool. Okay, all right, we have roadside front slide in, roadside front slide out. That is your roadside, your main slide right there. And that can only be operated if our engine is on and our emergency brake is activated. So we have the option to run our slide out here. We're going to have another option to run it up on our touch screen. We'll talk about that in a little while. We have our awning in, awning out. Like I said earlier, we just go ahead and light that screen up. Then we can go ahead and push the button. Push the button till that light blinks. Then we will see our awning start to roll in on its own without having to hold that button down. Same thing for the out. We have our battery disconnects right here. We talked about that in that first compartment right there. These are the ones that are behind the fuse panel. So in order to turn those off, you want to push it down. So one is going to be for our house batteries. That's our main. Our auxiliary is going to be for our chassis battery. When we want to use them, click them up and that will activate them. You should hear a small click in that compartment right behind this door, and that will let you know that they are activating. Moving up, we have our 110 outlet right here. We have another little control panel here for our galley lights that is above our kitchen countertop. We have another switch for our 12-volt water pump we talked about outside that water bay. We have a vent fan up and down. That is for our vent fan right there, that max air vent. We can go ahead and click that, and that will turn that fan on. We can click that, and that will automatically lift that lid on there so it can ventilate out. Moving on, we have our touchscreen panel right here. I'm gonna crank that ignition up because we're gonna need it whenever we run those slides. Our emergency brake is already on. Crank that up. All right, so the ignition is on. We can go to our slide outs right here. We have road slide front, so we have in and out. We have door slide rear, so in and out. So just sort of terminology, door side is your passenger side, road side is your driver side. So if we want to run that driver side or road side slide out, hit that button right there and it is going to start rolling out. While this is rolling out, I'll mention you always want to make sure your driver's seat is shifted forward. That way we are not scraping the slide out on the back of that seat. Same thing when we're rolling it in. And then we're going to do the same thing for our rear slide out. Go to our door side slide and we'll run that one out too. All right, so that's everything on this system that we would have to have our engine on in order to operate. Everything else can be operated no matter what. We go to lighting, have some of the same redundant stuff that we had down there up here, just a few more options, and we'll see these panels in our bedroom too. And you can scroll over, go over some more in there, keep going over. This is where your awning light is going to be able to operate that. And then once again, all lights off, all lights on, so on and so forth. It's going to remember what lights were off, what lights were on earlier, and just mimic that same thing. We can hit our home button right there at the top. We can bring us to levels. We're going to have our fresh tank, which is that freshwater tank outside, gray tank, black tank, so that's our sink and shower water. That's our sewer water right there. Our coach batteries, that is going to be our batteries that are under here. It's giving you the battery level there. And then our chassis battery is going to be what's under the hood in the front. Of course, we have our LP monitor right there too to let us know what that level is. We already talked about slide outs. We can also control our awning from right here too. We can run it in and out. We have our AC DC, which is going to be our AC is 110, DC is 12 volts. So we'll go to our power control system right here. Our 50 amps is what our service is, because we're plugged into a 50 amp service. This is going to tell you your loads, what is on electric right now. It's going to tell you your line loads, line 1, line 2. 50 amp service is 2 lines of 110. So this is telling you how much amperage is being pulled off of line 1 and how much is being pulled off of line 2. So some of these items, one AC might be on line 1, the other 2 ACs might be on line 2. So as you operate, you'll kind of see the amperage change on those 2 lines. Have our wiring status. This lets you know that that 50 amp service is plugged into a good plug. So it just runs you through all that stuff, lets you know everything is good. We can go back to AC DC and go over our automatic generator start. So that automatic generator start is when we store our unit unplugged, or we're out dry camping, we're worried about the power for our batteries. We don't want to run out, right? So the AGS system will automatically kick that generator on when we are concerned with low power. So we can enable this system by hitting AGS enable, and this will enable that system based on our battery power or our HVAC, which is our AC system, AC and heating, which we'll go over in a little while. And then this one will enable it during quiet time where we are observing, let's say 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., that quiet time, right? So we want to go over the setup of all that. We go to setup, enable on HVAC demand, enable on battery voltage. We just talked about that. So if we want to set up those items, we go to that. AGS startup. If our battery voltage gets down to 11.8, our generator system will kick on. It will start charging those batteries. And this would be our quiet time pre-charge minimum. So at 30 minutes prior to our quiet time, this system will check our battery status, kick it on, and start to charge those batteries. And we can change these two items. Okay, change it to whatever you want. I don't suggest going any lower on our battery voltage. Most of this stuff is already set up, plug and play. We're good to go, okay? So if we want to initiate some of this stuff, we need to go in here and make sure they are correctly inputted in here. Our run time, for our max run time. So it's gonna run for 4 hours at the minimum to charge those batteries up. 8 hours at the maximum. Okay, when we are happy with it, we hit our set run time and we're good to go. Set up quiet time, we have 11 to 5. Whatever you want it to be, you can go ahead and change it. All right, so if we want to enable on our HVAC demand system, this is going to be based off of our thermostat. So when we get to our thermostat, even though our 110 is off, our generator's not plugged in, we're not hooked up to shore power, it will recognize that your AC is wanting to come on. It will kick that generator on and allow that AC to run, reach temperature, and then that system is going to shut off. So that is your two options. You have voltage and then you have HVAC on demand. Status is just going to give us the run through of what all these items are that we already have preset in our system and just give you a great summary of it. So if you want the system on, we need to make sure we enable it. If we want it on during quiet time, enable it there. We have manual operation, which just tells you whether you want to start or stop your generator, just like the one outside. Only difference is we have a meter right here so we can keep track of our time on our generator, which is important when it comes to maintenance. So that runs through everything on our AGS. We'll go back to our main screen, go to utilities, water pump. Once again, another redundant switch. We got one here, we got one outside, we have another one right here. We'll probably have another one in our bathroom. Turn that off and on right here. We have our electric water heater. We don't have one on this unit. This is our tankless Suburban system on this unit, so we're not going to have electric. It's going to be a 12-volt powered unit, so we go to LP water heater. So we turn that off and on. We'll have another control panel for that in our bathroom. We'll go over in a little while. We have our entry step power. Once again, just like that switch down there, off and on right here. A lot of redundancy in our system. So here we have our thermostat, our living room and our bedroom. So we have our living room AC, bedroom AC. That's how it's labeled. I know it's not all the way into the bedroom, but it controls that stuff in the rear. We have cool, auto, our current room temperature, our set temperature right here. Now how do we activate? All right, so we activate by hitting that cool button. We can choose cool, off, or furnace. Now, furnace is only going to operate off of our living room thermostat. If we go to bedroom, you're going to see heat pump. Heat pump is going to be off of the AC itself. So it's going to put out warm-ish air out of that AC. If it is 30, 40 degrees, 50 degrees, whatever, you need to go ahead and 50 or below, you need to go ahead and kick that heated furnace in the front on, because a heat pump is not going to heat up your unit. It is meant to knock the chill out. So keep that in mind when using that. Have the right expectation. So we'll talk about heat pump a little more in a minute. We kick the furnace, we set our temperature, our gas furnace will come on. That air is going to come out of our lower vents on our unit, not out of our rooftop, because that is a separate system from our roof. All right, or we can go to off, one of the two. We have auto right here that controls our fan speed. High, low, auto. High and low is going to keep that fan running all the time, whether our compressor is on and cooling the air, or if we put it on auto, that fan will shut off and on with the compressor and not be running all the time. Talked about it, that's your room temperature, that's your set to temperature, which you want that AC to be on. Let's go back to bedroom. If we hit heat pump, same thing, set your temperature, all that stuff. But once again, it's not going to initiate that furnace. That air is going to come out of your second AC, out of your ducts in the ceiling right there. So that one does come out of the ceiling. It doesn't come out of the floor, and it's only going to knock the chill out, not heat your unit up to extreme temperatures. If it is really cold, use the gas furnace. Fans, we have our galley fan, our front lavabo fan, and our bathroom. That's those fans right there in the ceiling right here. We can go ahead and activate those, hit up, hit down, and then we can hit the fan to actually initiate the fan. Hit it again when we want to stop it. That wraps up everything on our touchscreen. Let's go check out what's on the dash. All right, so driver's seat right here. Let's kick on down. We have our mirror controls. We have mirror heat right there to the left. We have our monitor right here for our backup camera and our side cameras. If we hit channel 1, 2, 3, it will go cycle through those different cameras on our unit. There is no channel 4 on here, so it's going to be blank. Our menu will give us options to be able to change brightness, contrast, color, tint, so on and so forth on our unit. We can do that if we wish. And whenever we hit our blinker, it will automatically swap over to our left or right camera when we're swapping lanes, so we can go ahead and avoid that blind spot. Down below that, we have our front shades for our blind, our shade, our auxiliary start. Our auxiliary start is actually like jumper cables, okay? It's going to connect your house batteries to your chassis batteries. In the event your chassis battery is dead, we can flip that switch. It's like a set of jumper cables to that battery, and we can go ahead and boost that engine battery and get our engine cranked up if we have a dead battery. Have our fan, high, low, all that stuff right there. And then we have our pedal light right here at the bottom. That kicks up a little light down on the pedal. We have our controls for our headlights and everything down here at the bottom. And here we have our Lippert electronic leveling system. Remember we talked about outside, these are hydraulic levelers for our unit. We'll go over a quick operation of that right now. So for this to work, our ignition will have to be on. We're going to have that engine running, and we have our emergency brake on. We can go ahead and power it up. We'll see our voltage right there. Our voltage is important. This will pull off of our house battery, so we need to make sure we have good voltage. In order to run that auto level, just go ahead, as soon as it cranks up, just hold down auto level. Start running that system as soon as you get to the campground, and want to let those jacks ground out and not be moving around our unit while it is doing its thing. It can throw off the auto level sensor. You will feel the unit kind of jerk around and stuff, so it's safe just to stay still inside your unit while it operates. One thing I'll point out while it's operating is you see a little red light pop up in the corners right here. That is letting you know that that end is low. So every time that pops up in the front, that means our front is still a little low. If it pops up in the rear, that means our rear is a little low. So it's going ahead and sensing all that and automatically initiating our system. When it's all said and done, our green light will be solid in the middle, letting us know it is level. I tell you that because there's a manual mode on here we'll go over in a second, and we would use those orange indicators to manually run our jack and basically get those lights to disappear. So that's our little cheat on there, and we're also going to have a little monitor up here that's going to gauge and tell us where we are as far as our zero. We'll show you that here in a minute when this auto level completes. All right, so our 0 point is done. Generally, you're going to go into manual mode whenever you want to tweak your system. Maybe you have a door that's swinging just a little bit, and because this is only going to get you so level, and if we want to make fine adjustments, we go into that manual mode, we hit enter, and then we can go ahead and just bump that front or bump that right side or whatever to help that door from closing on you. Whatever your preference is, if you want to get really in tune with the system, you can do that. Other thing manual mode can be used for is if you want to manual the unit yourself. The goal is to get it down to 0.0 in the front and the rear. So that's front to back, left to right right there. If you want to do that, it changes as you operate your system. Now, if you ever want to retract some of those jacks, you overshot a little bit, hold down retract for a second, then go back to the front. You can drop it down just a pinch, and that will go ahead and retract it. To get out of that, hold down retract again. To get out of that, we can hit enter. The only other option on here is just your auto retract. So once you're done camping, you can do one of two things. You can go to auto retract and hit enter, or right whenever you turn that system on, just hold down that retract button and everything will automatically begin to retract and you're ready to hit the road. All right, on our steering wheel, we have all our controls for our dash, all that stuff. Standard Ford operation for your cruise control. Here we have our volume controls, our source, skip track, all that stuff for our radio. While we're talking about it, we'll jump over to our radio real quick. We can hit home. This will bring us to our main screen. We have our radio, we have audio, video in, Bluetooth, CarPlay, all that stuff. We're mainly going to focus on our Bluetooth real quick. Most people want to know how to hook that up. So you click on that, and what you want to do is you want to search for a device. At this point, it is searching. You want to be in your phone searching for a device, and it should show up here on this screen right here. So if you have an iPhone, or pop up, you should be able to find it on your phone as well, and you want to go ahead and connect to that setting, and you'll have Bluetooth paired up, CarPlay, all that stuff, either wireless or through our USB down here. You have to plug that USB in order to have that autoplay. Everything else standard operation on your radio as far as how everything operates on there. We do have voice command on here too that would operate off of your Siri or whatever Android uses for your phone operation there. To the left of that, we have our dome light above us. We have our utility lights. We have our generator start and stop. We have our radio. So our radio is park and travel. So in travel, it is relying on your chassis battery to kick on. So right now it's in travel. We shut that off. If we want it in park mode to where that radio stays on, we kick it in park, and that radio will stay on and listen to music while we're there. Parked at the campground, we also have our fog lights off and on there. And then above that, we have traction control, hazard lights. We'll also have our lane departure signal right there. Wireless charging under here. Pretty much wraps everything up with our dash stuff. We have a little storage right here, AC controls here, all your normal operation of some items. Up here we're going to have TV, our cabinets right here that slide open for more storage there on the side, more storage right here, but we also have our TV lockout system. So basically that locks this TV out from operating while we're traveling down the road. Pretty simple if you want to figure out how to override that. Maybe just move some stuff around, plug it in different places. It's against the law in some places. That's why they put that in there. So we'll leave that at that. Have a little light switch right there. We have our on-off switch right here. That is for our satellite system up on the roof. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to our TV system in the rear. All right, if we want more seating in our living room area, these chairs do turn around. You might have to scoot them up or whatever to wrap them around that wall. Same thing for our driver's chair. There is a little latch on the right side, the little bar sticking out. We have to push that towards the rear, and that will go ahead and unlatch that. Do have a footrest under here. So that's a latch right here. It kicks back. You can recline your chair, so on and so forth. We're ready to put that back into its original position. Just turn it, make sure that it locks in when we are traveling down the road. Now, like I said, same thing on the driver's seat. All we have to do is find that latch on the right-hand side. Do have a bunk up here, that little hideaway bunk. We have a key on our ignition switch. Key, keep kids from playing around with it, keep it locked. We unlock it, hit that button right there. That idle off will drop down. Do have a ladder in the back that connects right here so the kids can climb up there. And once that bed hits the bottom level, those lights right there will flip on and off. And that is what that light switch is for in that front right compartment right there to the right of that TV. Ready to run it up? Just hit that up button, run it up, and we're good to go. Up here we'll have this white box. This is our Wine Guard gateway system. It operates our Wi-Fi for our unit. We can get with a cellular provider, have Wi-Fi with us wherever we go, or it can boost the Wi-Fi at the campground. In here we have more controls. This is for our Magnum inverter right here. If we want to operate that system from here, it's pretty easy. It tells you when we're inverting. It tells you when there's a fault. Pretty simple. It's going to give us our current voltage, 13.2, which is charging, our current amperage on the system. If we do want to activate our inverter from here, we just hit that on-off button right there quickly. Our inverter light will come on. We'll start pulling from our 12-volt batteries and producing 110 power to some of our outlets, like our refrigerator outlet, our outlets in the kitchen, and of course our TVs as well. Another slide out button right here. Once again, same as this one, same as that one. A lot of redundancy. Only difference is this one gives you a little bit more information if there's a fault on their system. This is going to be for that main slide out in the living room. Gives you a little more information on that. So if your slide out isn't working, come here first, see if you got a fault or something like that going on here. It'll give you that other information. Here in our kitchen, let's go ahead and get you set back up on the tripod here. We'll talk about our gas stove next. So in the kitchen, we have our gas set up right here. We go ahead and pull this off. Have that extra counter space if we want it. We're ready to cook. Pull those off. Want to make sure our propane is on. Here we have our Dometic stove top. We go ahead, choose our appropriate burner, turn it to the little light icon right there, crank away until that burner kicks on. Pretty simple to use. One thing we want to keep in mind is propane can end up with air in our system. So that happens when we store our unit for an extended period. We turn that propane off, which is perfectly okay to do and suggested. You'll end up with air in the system because that propane dissipates out of the line. It can also happen if you run out of propane and then you get your tanks refilled, you'll end up with air in the line. So I always suggest to customers, as soon as you pull it out of storage or you just get your tanks refilled, turn that propane on, come over here, light your stovetop, and bleed the air out of the system. I suggest doing that before you operate things like your furnace, water heater, stuff like that, so it doesn't go into a fault because it's trying to light air rather than propane. It's only going to light so many times, whereas this one is manual and you can manually light it, so it may take a little extended period of time while you try to light it, but it will avoid some errors and issues along the way whenever you go to use some of those other gas appliances. Have your microwave up here. Do have an exhaust high-low to be able to exhaust while you are cooking. Down here we're going to have our COLP detector. Down below those drawers, we'll take a closer look at that. And this is going to let you know if we have any CO or LP in our system. Want to check that alarm on there regularly. Make sure that audible alarm goes off and lets us know that we need to vacate our unit. These do have an expiration date on them, and that is generally located on the back of this, stamped on there. It is a 5-year deal, so if your unit's a 2025, you're good till 2030, generally 2029, 2030, depending on when they built it. So just keep that in mind. It will tell you end of life. It gives you a couple little fault codes right here when that system is down. We can check it by taking a little lighter, holding it on there. Don't light it, just push the button, and that sensor should go off and let you know that that system does work. So this one is hardwired into our 12-volt system. We saw that fuse on the fuse panel outside for it. So that's how that's powered up. You are going to have some smoke detectors in your unit. Those are powered up by 9-volt batteries, so we need to check those when daylight savings comes around and make sure that those batteries are operational. Test the audible alarm on that as well. And moving on, we have our refrigerator. So our refrigerator has a travel latch on it. I suggest you put it on whenever you hit the road. Okay, if you drive safe or not, your items move around in your fridge and they can fall out. Pretty easy to use. We have our options right here to change our temperatures in here. We can also turn that system off and on. Our freezer and fridge. Our freezer, obviously right here, we do have an ice maker in there. We have a water line ran to it on the back side. One thing we need to remember is when we store our unit, we shut all this stuff down. We want to make sure we defrost it. Get the ice out of here. Get all your items out of that fridge. Make sure there's no water left in there, no ice, so on and so forth. Leave that door cracked to let it dry out. Wipe down your refrigerator, leave the doors cracked, let them dry out so we don't end up with mold or mildew in our fridge or freezer and we don't have any water that drains out and damages our wood framing around that fridge, because manufacturers aren't going to participate in that repair. So make sure we are maintaining that properly. Customer responsibility to change that out. While we're here, before we jump into the TV, I'll talk about our AC assemblies. Have one here, have one here, and we're going to notice on both of them they have a little vent right here. These open and close. These are quick dump vents. If you want this area to cool off quickly, we go ahead and open them up and the air will come out of there. If we want it to go through the ducts on our AC and circulate throughout the entire unit, we want to make sure they are closed. So this one is blowing out of here. We want it to circulate, so we're going to close those off. Now air is going to be flowing through our attic ducts up there. Do have filters on each one. A little tab here, a little tab here. This pops down. We can clean that filter so we're not reducing the airflow to that AC, and it can work efficiently. All right, back to our stand here. We have our TV and our fireplace right here. Little light switch for ambiance right behind it. TV, pretty self-explanatory. We go ahead and pull it off the wall right here. We can rotate it every which way. It has that mount. Magnetic, we push it back up against the wall. And next we have our fireplace. Let's go ahead, detach it once more. Have our power button right here to turn it off and on. We have a timer down here at the bottom. We can go ahead and click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, or go to a blank screen and that timer is off. We have our actual heat button right here, which is going to be to the left of the power button. Click that. We have a temperature up here. That means that it is heating. Down below that, you have an arrow up and down. We can click that, and that is going to change that temperature to what we want it to be, or we just want it on and run, then it'll do that too, and we can have that timer on, whatever you wish. If you want to turn the heat off, hit that button next to the power button again, and it'll shut off. If we want to change our ambiance, we hit the little button to the left right there, light 1, light 2, light 3, light 4, and that would just give you different ambiance in there. You'll feel the heat coming out of here. This is a 110 heater, not gas, so it's just a little electric heater that we can use to operate and cool our and warm our area. So we can use that and our heat pump in this AC right here if we want to try to help knock the chill out. So moving on, in our dining area, slide out right here. Not too much to talk about. We do have our table here that extends out, little latch on the bottom, slides out, drop a little extension in there, close it in, not a big deal. Slide it back out. We have to move this up, slide it back in to lock in, and then once again that little latch at the bottom will show you ties that table in place. We want to make sure that that is retracted whenever we run this slide out in, so it doesn't make contact with our kitchen counter. Our recliner is pretty self-explanatory. We have our switches right here to operate that. We have our USB ports right there on the side to be able to charge phones. Let's move into our half bath right here. Half bath has a half bath. We have our toilet, okay? So that's what a half bath is. Toilet, that's where we're putting our sewage, our number 1 and number 2, our liquids, our solids. That's how we're going to talk about sewage, okay? For liquids, you can go ahead, put your liquids in, flush that pedal, and send it down the drain. If we're doing solids, we want to make sure we fill that bowl 1/2 to 3/4 of the way with water, so we have enough water. So we have enough water to flush those solids down the drain. So in order to do that, we just barely push our pedal down right there, and it will begin to start filling that bowl up with water. Okay, so when we flush this system, this is going to be a vacuum flush system. So after you flush it, it may take a second, and then you're going to hear this system suck it down. It's going to suck it down into a tank. Now, one thing I'll tell you about this is if your tank is full, this system is not going to work. So make sure that you have your tanks dumped before you go to flush. Otherwise, we're not going to flush, right? Chemicals you're going to drop into your toilet here. I know we talked about filling the black tank up with water from here. We can also do that with our black tank flush if you want. Let that black tank flush run for a little while, fill that system up with water. Just make sure your valve is closed, and monitor it properly so you don't overflow your system for that black tank. So while you're filling it, don't walk away from it, is basically what I'm saying. There's a video that goes into that black tank flush a little bit better. I suggest you watch. Lavy ceiling, lavy is bathroom, water pump, vent fan off and on for our vent right here. Pretty self-explanatory. Also in our spare bathroom, we have our Suburban water heater control right here. We'll go over a little information on that right now. For our Suburban tankless water heater system, you can just turn it off and on by hitting that power button right there, obviously. And we can set our temperature with our arrows right here to whatever our desired heated temp is. Now this system, not much to it besides those buttons, and then of course we can change from Celsius to Fahrenheit. But when you turn your water on, the system's going to run and there's nothing else to do with it. It's not going to give you any other notifications unless there is an error in the system. Turn your water on, let it run, and it will begin to heat up to that set temperature. Moving into our bedroom. More redundant panels right here. We can operate our slide out from right here, but once again, our ignition is going to have to be on. We have our bed right here. Our bed does have some storage underneath it. We have some more chairs, stuff like that in there. We have our generator start stop right here to the right of our bed. We can go ahead and operate our generator from here. We also have our light switches right there to operate those lights. Have our closet right here with some items, our filter, our stuff. This is what I wanted to show you earlier for the tires. To be able to pull that lug nut off, this is the tool that you would use. So whenever you see that later and you're like, what is that? That's what that's for. A couple other goodies in there for you. Down below that, we do have our 110 control center right here with all of our 110 breakers. Is our all labeled, lets you know what they are controlling. So if something goes out in our unit, we want to come check here first. Running on generator power and everything looks good here, go check out those breakers on the generator. Running on shore power and everything looks good here. You're going to have breakers on that shore power pole as well. Moving on, we have our TV in the rear. So our TV in the rear is going to have a couple of things in this compartment, okay? We have our antenna on, off 4-part cable. What does that mean? Well, that's that little button right there. If we are searching for antenna channels because we don't have cable wherever we're at, we want to push that button and make sure that green light is on. That boosts the antenna to pick up more channels in your area. If we are hooked up to part cable, we want to push that button again and turn it off so it doesn't scramble the channels from the campground. We have to scan for cable channels on our TV. Here we're going to have our Alumiplex system. That Alumiplex system is going to be basically our 12-volt fuses that operate a bunch of stuff on our touchscreen panel. So this is all connected with all that. There's a diagnostic center up there. Don't suggest playing around with that unless you have tech assistance on the phone. We may or may not do a video on that later. Not sure yet how deep we want to go in with some of this stuff. All right, so close our TV. Let's see in our closet right here, just more storage. We have our rest of our bathroom in here. Before we get into that, let's go over our GFCI. So GFCI is a ground fault circuit interrupt. It's going to control all the outlets in your wet locations like bathrooms, kitchen, outside, so on and so forth. So if it ever trips, there's a reason behind it. Either our outlets got wet or we had too much stuff. Hair dryers, coffee makers, griddles, all that stuff plugged into our system. And it's going to trip this outlet right here. So what we want to do is when it's tripped, that little red light will be on. Unplug some of those items. Make sure your outlets aren't wet. Come over here and reset it. If you did your job, then that is going to reset just fine. You can go back to operating. If it trips again right off the back, then those outlets are wet or we still have too much stuff plugged in. So just go double check that in your system. Once again, same thing for our toilet system. Another vacuum flush toilet in here. And then of course we have our shower. Our shower has a travel latch on it. You want to make sure to use that. That way we don't damage our glass panel in here. Pretty self-explanatory, hot, cold, shower head, but we have this cool little thing right here called a shower miser. Well, a shower miser helps us conserve water on our unit. If we are at a campground, we don't have a dump station or we don't have a city water connection, we're generally trying to conserve water whenever we take a shower. So to do that, we have our shower miser. Our shower miser can let us know when our hot water is hot. So we come over here, and when we are ready to take a shower, we'll make sure that this little valve right here is pointed down towards our faucets, and that will recirculate water from our fresh tank through here and then back into our fresh tank. Once that water has reached a proper temperature, a heated temperature, this is going to change from dark blue to a light blue or white color, indicating that our water is heated. During this process, no water is going to be coming out of your faucet right here. You have these on, but the water is circulating back into your fresh tank. So that means we're not using water and throwing it away out of our fresh tank, and we're not dumping it into our gray tank. We're just recycling it until that water has warmed up. When we notice that it is time to take a shower, we go ahead and kick this valve on to here. Now it will flow through our hose to our faucet head up there, and now we have conserved fresh water. That way we can make it last a little bit longer. Big warning, we do not use our shower miser when we are hooked to city water. Only when we are pulling from our fresh tank. We don't have a city water connection hooked up because it will recycle into that tank and overflow it. Big thing in our bathroom is we want to make sure that we operate this vent up here to get rid of heat and humidity in here. And it will reduce the opportunity for mold and mildew in our bathroom. So use that definitely whenever we are taking a shower. That pretty much wraps up everything that we can cover on our Fleetwood Bounder. If I missed anything, we have it in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section as well as in the owner's manual.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist HAPS Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.